So what we have here is a big cardboard box marked Wildey, Wildey. And when we open it up, we've got a repro of the instruction manual. And we've got this cannon inside. Got one magazine here. My understanding is it originally came with the barrel removed and it's sitting here. I don't know. A friend gave me this as a gift. It has an adjustable rear sight. It's gas operated. This dial here, you turn it to adjust the gas port. It's double action. If you pull the trigger with the weapon cocked, there we go. If you pull the trigger, the gun will fire. It's also single action. You can cock the hammer and the gun will fire. This gun has a safety which is also a hammer drop safety, so I'll drop the hammer by putting the safety on. There's a blocking mechanism so the hammer does not fall all the way down. If one of these cameras will catch it, you will see that when I put the safety back on, the hammer drops. There are some features of this hand cannon I don't like. Before I talk about them, let me show you some ammunition for it. This, see, I need one more. This is a standard bullet for a Colt 1911. It's 80 model called 1991. You can see that the Wildey pistol dwarfs it. Looking up for the other camera. The Wildey dwarfs the 1911. The Wildey is thicker than the 1911. Thicker in the grip, thicker in the slide. Supposedly, the Wildey can handle pressures in excess of 45,000 psi. These are 2 live rounds for the Wildey. One is a full metal jacket, the other is a semi-wad cutter. And you can hopefully see the size comparison between a standard 1911 round and a Wildey round. You can reload for the Wildey, or at least I've been doing so successfully, using 45 Colt dies and a case holder 45 ACP. There do exist dies specifically intended for the 45 Winchester Magnum. I haven't found a need to use them since the 45 Colt dies work pretty well. You've probably already seen the video with me firing this pistol. Supposedly it's good for hunting and for silhouette shooting. I don't see any advantage over a carbine. I see a lot of disadvantage over a carbine. In fact, there's at least one individual out there who's remanufacturing M1 carbines to use 45 Winchester Magnum. That strikes me as a much more suitable weapon, given that this thing weighs over 5 pounds in its current configuration with an empty magazine. If I'm going to lug something weighing 5 pounds around, I'd like it to have a shoulder stock. I'd like it to be somewhat controllable in rapid fire. The Wildey does not have a shoulder stock, and it is not very controllable in rapid fire. I've done some rapid fire experiments, and she recoils like that, and by the time you get back down on target, it's no longer a rapid fire. A feature I do not like about the Wildey is there is no real hold open on the slide. Pulling the slide back, it's locked back, but watch what happens the instant I move the magazine. The only thing holding the slide back is the follower of the magazine. From experience, you don't want to get your finger caught in that bolt. It'll put M1 thumb to shame. This particular version, depending on where you measure it, is anywhere from 9.5 inches to 10 inches in length. The measurement from the base of the chamber is tricky because the bolt slides into the chamber about halfway. Using that as the measurement, I get a measurement of 9 inches. If I take the front of the frame just behind the gas block as the beginning of the measurement, I come out with this being an 8-inch barrel. There's still chamber behind that point, but if we use this as the reference, it's an 8-inch barrel. Like I say, weighs about 5 pounds. Things I don't like, as stated, there is no way of locking the slide back. Yet and still you have to pull the slide back to that position in order to field strip the pistol. And at one point it will become kind of a wrestling match because you've got to hold the slide back while pushing out the slide stop. The slide stop is not really the slide stop. There's a small piece in there that'll drop out that's called a locking bolt. It's what the slide stop really stops against. Another feature I dislike about the Wildey is it is extremely difficult to cock, and pulling the slide back, the chamber around while you're on target is difficult. It's two hands, definitely. One pushing, one pulling. As stated, if there was a way of locking the slide back with a loaded magazine, I'd be all for that, but there is not. As soon as you insert a loaded magazine, the slide will slam forward. You might not want it loaded at that point. Likewise, unloading it requires 2 hands, 1 hand to remove one of the magazines, and keeping the gun in the safe direction with your finger off the trigger. Push forward while holding on. I should add that the edges here are sharp. They are not rounded off. This gun will bite you. Also that will bite you is this sharp edge on the rear sight. The barrels are interchangeable on this. If you can find a short barrel, you can just basically unplug the old barrel and plug in a new barrel, to shorter barrel. I don't know why you would want a shorter barrel on this, because the muzzle blast would be really excessive. If anything, this gun kind of needs with this cartridge, kind of needs a longer barrel, not a shorter one. Putting the gun on safety, the hammer will drop. I cringe when that happens. I'm just not a big fan of dropping the hammer. The other feature is you cannot fire 45 ACP ammunition, and if you try, the bullet will just fall to the bottom of the chamber, because the case, the Wildey case, head spaces on the case mouth, and the 45 ACP bullet will just drop down into it, head spaces on the case mouth, and it will be out of reach of the firing pin. I know this because I've tried several times. I believe that this pistol, the Wildey, is a very practical pistol if you're going to be attacked by a herd of Kodiak bear. However, Kodiak bear don't travel in herds, and they certainly don't attack humans in herds. Therefore, I'm hard-pressed to come up with a use for the gun other than novelty plinking. As you saw from the video, it will make a steel plate dance. I have no doubt it will punch holes in any flesh target you fire it at. However, so will some of my carbines. I think a .308 carbine does a better job going into flesh than does .45 Winchester Magnum. That's just my personal belief. This particular version was made in Connecticut. There have been at least 4 manufacturers that have made the Wildey pistol. The company keeps reorganizing for whatever reason. This particular one was made in something called Chelsea, Connecticut. It's got a serial number with the what is this, OC prefix. That puts it in the second production run of these pistols. That would date it sometime around 1980 to 1985. I've taken it apart, and I want to go on record as saying it is a difficult pistol to reassemble, which is why I am not disassembling it and reassembling it for this video. You have to get everything right. You have to insert that little locking tab under the barrel and skewer it with the slide stop, while at the same time with your third hand holding the slide back. Some videos that are on YouTube, you see people attempting to do it while jamming the pistol into the ground. I understand that. I went through the dance. I've taken it apart for cleaning. It's currently clean. The next time I shoot it, I'll take it apart and clean it again. But the gun is made out of stainless steel, and you can probably get away with missing the cleaning for a few days. I realize that's not good advice for any gun, but this pistol, because you're battling the springs, I feel comfortable in saying that. Another feature is, although there are grooves on the back strap and on the foregrip, however, the gun is still slippery. The grip is large. I wear size 14 gloves, and I find this grip uncomfortably large. That's the best way of putting it. Definitely needs 2 hands when firing. You're not going to be accurate trying to fire this one-handed, because you're going to be fighting the weight of the gun the whole time. My conclusion is the Wildey is a novelty pistol. In spite of Charles Bronson liking it in his Death Wish movie, I think you're much better off for self-defense with a standard stock 1911 or 11A1 or Series 90, whatever. Just my 2 cents worth. These guns currently retail for about $1,500 and up, depending on condition. This one's in pretty good condition, obviously. I don't know what else to say about it. It's no doubt, if you were silhouette shooting, this would probably, and they required you to use a pistol, this would probably be a good pistol to use. However, you would probably not want this particular sight rib on it. You would probably want to use one of the aftermarket sight ribs with a different colored front sight. This front sight on distance targets tends to just blur out. It's gray in color, and it's not what I would prefer. white dot or fiber optic would probably be a better choice. The trigger is a little wider than it needs to be. That's probably for people with small hands so that they can just barely reach the trigger and touch it. Larger hands, it's still wider than I would like. It's just my thought, my impressions. On the other hand, I appreciate the fact that someone gave this to me. They also provided about 50 rounds of brass, with which I've made a few dozen reloads. I should add that I'll probably have to buy brass if I want to keep shooting it. That's because when this gun fires, those cases go somewhere that away, probably about 30 or 40 feet away. And if they land in grass, you're never going to find them. When I was doing rapid firing, a person was behind me trying to see where the brass went. He lost sight of the brass. He didn't see it. The ejection is very fast. I found it to be a reliable pistol as long as the gas regulator was properly tuned for the ammunition in question. Any variation in your hand load or switching from one brand of factory ammunition to another, you're probably going to have to take 5 to 6 shots just to learn what the proper setting for that ammunition is. But anyway, in conclusion, this is the Wildey. I would also change the grips on these. The checkering is a little finer than I think the caliber requires. I think I would go with something like 18 or 16 lines per inch. Right now it seems to be at 22 lines per inch, which is a little fine for this kind of gun, given the largeness of the grip and the slipperiness of the metal. Anyway, let me know what you think. It's the Wildey 45 Winchester Magnum. Not my first choice as a carry gun. Hope you enjoyed this. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe. Consider also becoming a Patreon supporter.